Parents were married here. My sisters were both married here. I got baptized here twice, actually.
Visit Jackson, Mississippi, and you can't miss the First Baptist Church. To Neil Carter, it was like a second home.
And this is where I grew up.
At the age of 15, Carter says he was saved by a youth evangelist.
It was a very emotional experience for me. I really broke down into tears. Almost immediately after I got saved, I began teaching Sunday school, and I did that for about 10 years.
After college, he went to seminary and thought about becoming a minister.
When did you start having doubts?
I like to say that I've always lived with an inner skeptic. Even when I was a kid, I always had a lot of questions that were never really answered.
His questioning lasted for decades. But 5 years ago, Carter finally admitted to himself that he's an atheist. It took him another year to tell his wife.
It was very upsetting. For her, it felt like it was like I had died. The man that she had married was gone.
Their marriage, they have 4 daughters, ended in 2012. But Carter says he never mentioned his atheism to his middle school history students.
How did the kids find out that you're an atheist?
One of them had been stalking me on Facebook and saw that I had liked a page about atheism. And then she came to school the next day and started asking me in front of the students if I was an atheist. And I refused to answer the question, which to them was enough of an answer.
The principal soon instructed him never to discuss anything to do with religion in class.
And shortly thereafter, you were transferred.
First, they moved me out of my classroom to a math class. And then after that, they just told me they wouldn't bring me back the next school year. And they didn't really give me any reasons, but obviously I knew what the reason was.
We don't know for certain why Carter was transferred. No reason was documented, and his school has declined to talk with us. Since 2013, he's been teaching math at a nearby high school. He started a blog, Godless in Dixie. And he's joined a group called Openly Secular.
My name is Neil Carter. I live in Jackson, Mississippi.
On its website, Carter talks about the price he says he pays for declaring he's an atheist.
Because around here, people are taught that morality comes from religion. So if you don't have religious beliefs, then you must not be a moral person.
Like a light switch, you're immoral. You're going to raise evil children. You're a bad parent. They're questioning your whole existence. I'd rather somebody assume I'm stupid than assume I'm wicked. It's painful. It's discrimination. It's prejudice.
From Raleigh, North Carolina, Todd Stiefel, a former Catholic, leads the Openly Secular campaign. It's a new effort by 30 organizations and some well-known names, including Saturday Night Live alum Julia Sweeney, that asks non-believers to go public.
Yes, I'm an atheist, but it was a really harsh word. It was a hard word for a lot of people to handle, including, for example, my parents.
While 7% of Americans say they don't believe in God, only a little more than 2% call themselves atheist.
The word atheism has really bad branding. A lot of people don't want to associate with the word, even if they are. I've had people say, oh, I don't believe in God, but I'm not an atheist. They don't want to use the term because it brings such baggage and hatred.
I am an atheist.
In the 1960s, the face of atheism was Madalyn Murray O'Hair, who famously crusaded to end mandatory Bible readings in public schools.
I felt that this was an unconstitutional practice in relation to separation of church and state.
She was, to say the least, a polarizing figure. Openly Secular is taking a different approach, focusing less on the law and more on the court of public opinion.
It's about changing hearts and changing minds. It's about people realizing that we are somebody you don't need to fear. We're somebody you don't need to distrust.
They've got their work cut out for them. 53% of Americans say they'd be less likely to support an atheist for president. In politics, an admission of atheism is virtual suicide.
And you're like, well, could an atheist get elected to public office? It's like, well, of course not. They can't get elected in this country.
Can we begin our crusade, join together in a moment of silent prayer?
God bless America.
Thank you. God bless America.
May God bless the United States of America.
Yes, Americans are religious, particularly in the South, which is why it's called the Bible Belt. Black Americans are especially devout, Nearly 9 in 10 African Americans believe with certainty that God exists. Candidly, when I think atheist, I don't picture you.
Yeah, you might picture an old white guy.
Mandisa Thomas is an events services manager in a suburb of Atlanta, Georgia. When people meet you, what assumptions do they make about you?
Well, they assume that I go to church, that I sing gospel, that I am just overly in love with Jesus.
And that you love Tyler Perry?
Right, that we love Tyler Perry.
I'm going out in the highways and byways and doing what the Lord told me to do. Praise him. Thank you, Jesus.
What do you think Medea would say to an atheist?
She might say what some other black women have said to me. Well, you better get your life right. You better get your mind right. I cannot believe that you have turned away from the Lord. You're going to do your homework now, okay?
Okay.
Thomas grew up in a non-religious household and is raising her 2 sons and an older daughter as what she calls free thinkers. Is there particular pressure on black people to profess a belief in God?
Yes, there is. Through slavery, through the civil rights movement, and through all of the injustice that we face in this country. There is an overall sentiment in our community that we've come this far by faith.
God bless you and be with you.
Thomas says she prefers to emphasize the doctor rather than reverend in the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
He admired Mahatma Gandhi, who was Hindu. He himself as a person was just not defined by his Christianity. He was much more diverse than that. We let people know that leaders in the black community weren't all religious.
And when Mandisa Thomas says we,
good afternoon, everyone.
She means Black Non-Believers, a secular group she founded in 2011.
One campaign that we recently partnered with is the Openly Secular campaign.
It's a support group for black atheists, many of whom say they've been shunned by family and friends.
If you leave the religion, people aren't really supposed to associate with you anymore.
Once you say I'm atheist, all the doors start closing. You can hear them.
They often feel isolated, and so we help with that. You know, we don't want anybody feeling that they're alone in this.
We're all relying on each other to survive, so.
Among our community, the black community, what's the first thing women say they're looking for?
What church you could get for God-fearing man?
A God-fearing man.
No surprise, almost half of all Americans say they'd be unhappy if a family member married an atheist. At their meetings each month, these non-believers talk about ways to navigate in a world of believers.
I have 2 Facebook pages.
One is for?
One is for just general stuff. And the other one is for Tracy, the anti-theist, hardcore atheist.
You also might keep 2 Facebook identities if you were told repeatedly that you were facing eternal damnation. How do you think a person of faith should deal with an atheist?
One should engage with them like any human being. I'm going to treat them with respect and love.
The kingdom of God is not the empire of this world or the United States.
Reverend Dr. Luke Powery is Dean of Duke University Chapel.
Do you think that atheists are going to hell?
I'm not God. I can't say who's going to hell or really who's going to heaven.
Have you ever doubted God's existence?
Sure. Doubt is a part of faith. Questions about God, are you there, which we see throughout the Hebrew scriptures and the Psalms, anger against God. There can be a journey of doubt and questioning, but that's actually a part of the faith. Lord, I believe, help my unbelief.
But the atheists we met say they're not struggling with their unbelief.
What do you believe?
I believe that people can make the world a better place if they work together.
I believe in being good. I believe what can be proven.
Love other people, treat them with love, and they will treat you back that way. Live a life of integrity, be honest.
Despite all these personal difficulties you've experienced, are you happy that you, as you put it, came out of the closet as an atheist?
It's made for a more authentic life for me. It's really difficult to not feel at home in your own life. And at some point you have to just own it, or else you're not really living.